You've tuned into The Mountain Gardener with your host, Ken Lane. Gardening, it can be challenging, but with these simple insider tips, you'll reap huge rewards. Now, let's tune into today's Mountain Gardener with Ken and Lisa. And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. Your host, Ken Lane, here every week talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona. And we are in the peak of the planting. May is the peak of the planting season. This is when all the gardeners are out putting plants in, and all the departments. So at a garden center, we have a tree department. So trees have been going in since they go in 12 months out of the year. So evergreens in the winter, fruit trees in the early spring. Now it's all the blooming trees. Then it'll be shade trees, then autumn trees. They're all the time going. Perennials, pretty much, it changes up. The perennial department, things that come back year after year. It's a growing trend. Lots more people like to plant it once and done. Plant it and it comes back for years. Then there's the annual department, that is flowers that bloom like crazy, and then they die in the winter. So that one's only, May is the time for that. Vegetables, May is the time. Herbs. So if you're thinking about lemongrass and tarragon and curry and all the freaky, weird, different, unusual, I can't find that anywhere kind of herbs, now is the time. This is when you find them. And when you see them at a garden center, don't think, just grab them. So you go, oh, I've been looking for that kind of curry or Thai basil or strawberry mint. Just grab it. Because literally there's so many gardeners at the garden center in May that it can literally be gone that afternoon. A whole tray, 3 or 4 flats can be gone. So cilantro, that's an unusual one. Grab it while you can. Not putting pressure on you to buy now, but our garden centers, especially on the specialty crops, we don't commit that much. We don't have greenhouses filled. We go, well, let's grow 4 flats, and that's all we'll need because it's such an unusual type of, bay laurel. You just don't have that many that you sell, but they came in this week. So it's that kind of stuff. Cuban, Cuban oregano, huge, thick, leathery oregano, very fragrant, pungent, just kind of, oh, my mouth just watered thinking about using it in the kitchen. And then all the other variegated. You've got Greek, you've got Italian, French, you've got all the varieties. Red, there's all kinds of varieties. Now's your peak time. Several folks have been asking, yeah, but Ken, I was always told, wait till Mother's Day. Listen, if you wait till Mother's Day, it may be too late. You grab them when you can. And I think you can put them in. And if you see the weather in your neighborhood dropping down into the 30s, throw a sheet over them. Anything will keep the frost off. And it won't freeze very hard. It'll just be a flash, like thump, frost, and it's gone. So it's pretty easy to protect plants this time of year. And most plants don't really care. Like herbs, most herbs, except for basil, they don't care if it gets cold. They're happy. They're fun. Strawberries love the cold. Cabbage, love. Broccoli, cauliflower, love the cold. Some things, maybe, eggplant's a little more sensitive, but I think you could put that in now and it would start to grow quickly. If you look at the weather forecast, first part of May, basically through May, it's 70s. And the nighttime temperatures are 40s. That's like the perfect growing weather. You couldn't ask for better gardening weather, whether it's for annual flowers, herbs, vegetables, perennials, tree shrubs. They're all lilacs are in full bloom. The roses are here at full glorious bloom. And now it's okay to plant them now. Some things, really be careful with your vegetable crops. They take some richness, some good soil. And if you're just throwing them into the same old soil you've had, just turned it once, you should probably add some nutrients, at least a fertilizer. So at least put a vegetable food and blend that in. I would say even add some organic compost. So we make a premium mulch. It's just a composted down to a 1/4 inch minus. Is made to enrich the soil, feed the worms, help things root out faster. It's add some. If you're doing containers and raised beds, I would say add some potting soil. So we make our own potting soil. It's not Miracle Grow or any of that kind of stuff. We make something that's better for here. It's made for here to grow plants that are grown here. And so that's a soil that we start our cuttings and seed in. and it is magical. It really makes things grow fast. If you give a plant more of what it's grown up into, it's just going to go, wow, this is a great place. I like this. Let's just grow. And they take off. And so another little secret or tip, besides the fertilizer, enriching some soil again. Don't just throw it into old soil. And if you've got old roots and last year's plants and sticks and twigs, that is not good. You do not want that at the root level of your vegetable garden. It will affect, as those things compost, they take nutrients away from the plant and they leave the plant wanting. So your production, your tomatoes will be smaller. You have less cucumbers. The squash won't form as easily. And so you want to thin or filter some of that out. What I also do, so I'm digging my plants, I'm getting a bottle of, or a canister of Aqua Boost crystals. Now, these are polymers, so they swell up and hold like 200 times their weight in water. Super helpful in raised beds, containers, or just in the ground. It really takes the edge off those plants. We have such extremes between daytime temperature and nighttime temperature. The plants have a hard time with that. And so that they can get real hot in the summer, in the day. And so the fruit will shrink as it's trying to take up enough moisture. And then in the evening, it almost gets too wet. As we cool, we'll drop 30, 40, 50 degrees from daytime to nighttime temperature. And so that messes with plants and they're trying to adjust. And so AquaBoost, it regulates the moisture at the root level. So the plants, when it needs moisture, those crystals release the water back to the plant. And when they don't need it, they absorb it up. So it kind of evens it out. Also adds some air. There's a lot of things that happen. We actually dip our polymers into mycorrhizal colonies. These are beneficials that attach themselves to roots of plants and extend the root hairs of plants. There's a symbiotic thing that happens. We're going deep into botany now, but it works. I mean, it really works. And so whenever I plant flowers, especially vegetables, herbs, I'm going to add just maybe a tablespoon. Just sprinkle at the bottom of the hole and then plant your plant. Then as you water, those crystals will swell up, release the mycorrhizal colonies, and the plant it'll start regulating the temperature. Really plays out well when it's June. June is a hot month. It's terribly dry. There's a prevailing southwest wind. You've got brand new foliage. And so that's where if you can regulate or help the plant keep up with the daytime moisture needs, it's a game changer for your plants. They'll start to produce faster. They'll set fruits better. And so that's one thing that I do for my vegetables that it really has made a difference. Tomatoes are notorious for having thick skins or cracking skin. That takes that just completely takes that whole issue out. AquaBoost crystals, it's magical. Fertilizing regularly. What else would I do? Cage. You need to cage. At the bottom of the hour, I don't have time to explain it now, but there's basically 3 types of tomatoes. I'll explain those in details, and that'll help you. Which ones do I add a cage, and which ones, it doesn't really matter. There's different varieties. And so for sure, if in doubt, if you're square foot gardening or high density gardening, cages are your friend. Stakes are your friend. Using the edge of the pot, having those cucumbers trail out over there, so it can spread out, not taking up space in the main garden, but spread out over the gardens. Strawberries, I do that a lot with strawberries. Around the outer edge of a container or pot, they're just pretty plants. Dark green, rich foliage, pretty flower, puts on a fruit that is delicious, or it's just beautiful. It's just a pretty plant, and it's aggressive. So when they're happy, they put on these long tendrils. So they're real pretty at the container's edge, or at the front edge of a raised bed, because they just look like your gardens are overflowing with life and wanting to just jump out of the bed and come eat dinner with you or something. You want happy plants and happy gardens. And if it looks like they're overflowing their beds, that's a good look. I think you're good to go. You can plant now. I think you've got a great selection. You've got poblanos. You've got all the fun ones that will run out at the end of the month. If you're waiting, we'll run out of some of those. We will always have, mainly, I think, zucchinis, jalapeno peppers, celebrity tomatoes, but some we don't. So anyway, that's it for this segment. I got Lisa Watters Lain coming in with your garden questions. Let's take a break. Be right back. Watters Garden companion plants in May are purple robe locust, vine achevia, Prescott sunshine geraniums, and easy elegant roses.
Just plant these roses in a sunny spot and enjoy.
We've married the beauty of long stem roses with the easy care of shrub roses for landscape color like no other plant in the backyard.
Choose fragrant reds, radiant pinks, corals, vivacious yellows, and stately whites.
Extremely fragrant and only found locally at Watters Garden Center in Prescott. And we are back with Lisa Watters Lain in the studio. She comes each week with your garden questions. Just what are people talking about out in their gardens, and can we learn something from that? So welcome to the studio, Lisa.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm doing great. It's kind of nice to be off the line and in the studio. I've been on the floor, helping the crew with flowers and perennials and herbs and veggies, and they got a little overwhelmed, and so had a lot of. So the average semi will hold about 40 racks of flowers. Well, we had like 60 racks. There's a truck and a half of flour just coming
almost
in.
Two.
They were overwhelmed, so just came in to kind of help them out, and we knocked out the place when we got all done. The people are going, oh, this is the most beautiful I've ever seen the gardens, and it's so pretty. These are friends and folks that have seen us grow up over the years. It kind of tickles my heart when I hear that. So thank you for just commenting how nice the place looks. We are trying. And when you fill up a place with, trucks and trucks and trucks of plants that are beautiful, it does feel like a botanical garden.
It does.
That's our goal.
Yes. And now with that new shade structure, you just want to bring your cup of coffee and peruse.
Bring
Stroll.
your dog. Bring your cat. Someone brings their parrot.
Yeah, somebody brought a parrot in the other day.
Fun.
It was, I forget which, I don't know, my parrots. But we kept hearing this weird noise. It's like, was there something in the parking lot? What? And it was this bird just making all kinds of interesting noises, but it was fun.
Yeah. So garden questions. We should cover some gardening things for folks. What is a good one that someone might have asked?
That might have asked.
Well, see if they can stump me. I had what was that? Earth Day. Went out to Prescott Valley.
Oh, yeah.
I told the kids, if you can stump me, I'll give you a free flower. And they came up with some really good ones. And luckily, even if I didn't know the answer, I could bluff.
You could bluff.
So, yeah. Talk with confidence. Look them in the eye.
There you go. All right. Well, Lauren is having some raised beds made to grow mainly vegetables and a few herbs. She wants to know, how deep should the beds be made?
Oh, sure. So if you do your homework, it'll say 8 inches. What I find is that's not quite deep enough. If you can go 2 blocks or an extra, 16 inches, I would say be minimum. That'll help you with your deeper rooted, bigger things. It gives you more options down the road. Plus, it raises it up a top. You're building raised beds to get rid of the crummy soil you're trying to garden in. Well, get rid of it. Don't even be tempted to go down into that junk. Just put an extra block and just an extra layer, and then fill it up with good soil. Will be the secret. So I don't know how big this thing was, but if you're doing a filler, it's a really big bed, you'll probably have a dump truck bring in soil from a rock yard. Well, rock yards don't have the best garden soil, but they got something that they're taking silt, they're adding wood chips and manure. Those are our 3 resources. And so they're blending that together using a dump truck in a cement truck mixer. They just mix it all up and then dump it out. Go, here's our garden mix. That's good for filling up a bulk of the bed. The top layer, I would say the top 6 inches of that soil, of that bed, should be Watters potting soil. The potting soil will make the difference for whatever you're planting. Flowers, vegetables, herbs, lavenders, butterfly bush, whatever it is, it'll be a game changer. Don't blend it into that filler soil. Just use that as filler and then top dress with a 6-inch layer of Watters potting soil and start planting. You will have, instantaneous success. All organic, all natural. It's safe. Most soils are not organic. The wetting agent they add to it is a chemical. We don't do that. We purposely keep our soils 100% organic. So you can confidently go out and plant your tomatoes, plant your cilantro, your oregano, or cucumbers, whatever. and enjoy, or whether it's flowers. You don't want to hurt the butterflies. Keep it organic. Anyway, I could go on and on. That's my soapbox.
Yes, you could.
Yeah, we need to be better. We can be better with the environment.
Be better.
Oh my gosh.
That is true. All right. So Constance wants to put a rose on the northeast corner of her house. It will get about 4 hours of sun max. Do you think it will do okay? And if not, what other type of blooming shrub would you recommend?
Yeah, Constance, it's not going to be okay. It's not enough sun. A rose, it might bloom, but it'll be kind of leggy. It'll start to reach, it'll grow up and reach for the sun. It'll try to get out there where the sun is. So 4 hours is not enough for a rose. You're better off with some other varieties. Roses need at least 6 hours of sun or more. And the more you give a rose, the more roses, the more flowers you get. And so 4 hours, I think, it's just going to be a thin, wispy. We just wouldn't be happy. So many better choices. That's a good place for hydrangeas and hollies and azaleas and weigelia and rhododendrons. And there's so many. Abelia. You can go on and on. We have an entire section. It's under a shade fabric area to keep the sun, to mitigate the sun on those plants and make sure they're happy. We have an entire section. You walk through that. There's hundreds and hundreds of plants. One of them is going to call to you going, take me home, plant me, enjoy me. Look for that. So probably a rose, not ideal. That's one where it's good to ask before you commit to, spend $30, put a rose in, and 3 years later, you're going, why doesn't it ever bloom? Well, you should have asked ahead of time.
That is true. All right. Next question is from Stephen. He bought a dwarf peach tree and put it in a large container. He says there were quite a few peaches developing. Nice. He wants to know, do we let them all grow? Do we let none of them grow? Good, yeah. Do we thin it out? What do you do the first year?
Yeah, Stephen, great question. So all of the fruit trees that we grow here at Watters Garden Center, we purposely bring in varieties of the right age. So the people that shop here at our garden center had a nickel for every time I heard, I don't want to wait. I've got the money. I've been old enough. I'm retired. I got my dream home and I'm not waiting for peaches or apples or pears or cherries or plums. I want it to be of age now. So all of our trees are of fruiting age. Typically, peaches have to be about 6-7 years old before they're old enough to start producing fruit. So obviously you've got an older tree. So that's good for you. It's fruiting. Good. That's great. Enjoy. What the book says is don't let fruit trees fruit the first year because they're either fruiting or they're rooting. You want them to focus all their energy on a root. If it was a fairly large root you had, so it's a 5, 10, 15 gallon size, it probably has enough roots. I would thin the fruit. And, I would say peaches are notorious for producing so many fruits. The roots cannot keep up with all this fruit production. And so we tend to thumb prune or thin the fruit off of that. We'll thin it by about 50%. It's very painful, but you're taking all the weaker, competing, if in doubt, pick it out. Get it off of there and leave the strongest ones left. And so all the energy from that root will focus in on those remaining fruits. You get a nice, big, juicy, melt in your mouth peach. Oh, Stephen, you're going to be so happy. But I would say go ahead and let it fruit. Enjoy it. But I would take off probably half of all those smaller fruits. And you don't want to, you're kind of dime size. So they're obviously formed. And so you're just trying to thin those off real quick. It'll take you almost no time. You pick them right off. You don't need scissors or pruners. You just pick them right off. And so be aggressive. It hurts most folks. It seems like gardeners don't pick enough of their fruit off. And so they're left with a whole bunch of pits and not much fruit on these plants. That's very important for plums, peaches, pears and apples are notorious for an apple will put on like a cluster of 5 apples on the end of a branch. Then the branch starts to weep and sag and it starts to break. Well, take all of them but 1 or 2 apples off of that cluster. As soon as you can see, they're forming. There's obviously 3 of those that just aren't as strong as the other 2. Take those 3 off of there. If anything's damaged at all, a blemish, take it out of there, get it off of there. It'll be game changer. So hopefully that answered Stephen's question.
I think
Enjoy.
so.
You are going to have, sounds like an amazing peach crop. Ken and Lisa Lain, the Mountain Gardeners. We are out of time. We'll be back after this. Watters' companion plants in May are Vining akebia, Indian hawthorn, Prescott sunshine geraniums, and purple robe locusts.
Incredible long clusters of purple flowers in May that look just like wisteria flowers hanging from this local bloomer.
The 8-inch fragrant flowers cover the tree profusely.
Super hardy and drought tolerant with a brisk growth rate of 2 feet in 1 year.
It's just the perfect backyard shade tree.
You'll find the shadiest trees here at Watters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott.
So we are into the vegetable planting season, whether you're starting radishes from seed or corn or beans or peas or tomatoes, it's time. I told you at the top of the hour, beginning of the show, that I would explain the 3 basic types of tomatoes. The tomatoes are the number 1 vegetable grown. We call it the introductory drug or plant of gardening. People start with houseplants and tomatoes. You can get them started with those and make them successful. They'll expand, and then they go into peppers and cucumbers, and they all of a sudden they're out to flowers like zinnias and geraniums, and it just goes from there. And then it's like in your blood. And it just keeps you young and gives you therapy sessions. It just makes you feel better because gardening just gets you outside in the fresh air, enjoying hummingbirds, butterflies, flowers, fragrance. There's a lot to it. And so tomatoes, there are 3 basic varieties of tomatoes: determinate, indeterminate, and you've got a patio variety or just a dwarfed kind of size. And so your indeterminate, these are the ones that are basically the big tomato plants. They grow as tall as you and I do. You better have a stake. You better either give a place for them to just sprawl across the ground, or we stake them up with great big stakes, sometimes like lodge poles. They get so big. And so these are indeterminate. They do not have a determined height. So they're indeterminate. They just keep growing and growing and growing and growing. And the more they grow, the more foliage you put on and the more tomatoes they produce. That's indeterminate. Your grandparents basically grew indeterminate tomatoes. Then there's determined or determined tomatoes. There's a set size. It's determined to grow one size and then it's out. That's it. That's all there's going to be. These are typically the ones that are grown that are smaller. So Romas, the ones you make a lot of paste sauces out of, or canning supplies. If you want all your tomatoes all at once, and I want to can them, Romas are a great way to go, or a paste type of tomato. That's the benefit. They're generally shorter plants because they're determined to be a certain size. Most of your patio varieties, these are also determined to only be about knee high. They really don't need to be staked. Many of them we have in containers, and they're made to grow for the entire season and produce nice crops in this one little pot, one little container. And so that's a determined variety. And then you get into kind of the funky stuff. This would be, we've got some ground cover varieties. There's some that are grafted. We actually graft plants onto certain rootstocks. It gets them more, just makes them stronger. We've got heirloom varieties. These are old-fashioned varieties like black Krim, green Germans, Brandywines. These are all varieties that are very ancient, very old. We've gone with more hybrid varieties, not genetically modified. Hybrid, we're cross-pollinating different plants, so we create a new variety like an early girl or a celebrity or champion. And the reason we do that is we go, oh, these 2 varieties are really good at, they don't get the leaf spot, they don't get fruit and wilt, they seem to produce more than others. So let's breed these 2 together. We help them make whoopee there with the little flowers, pollen back and forth, and they come up with a new variety. What we get is a stronger, better breed of plant. That's a hybrid variety. So we've groomed this plant to be a certain variety, a certain way to grow a certain size fruit. And so generally they're hardier plants. They're less disease prone. Your heirlooms are the old-fashioned ones. A lot of folks think, oh, I only want heirloom because, well, everything else is genetically modified. Well, no, that is not true. First of all, we don't do that here. Everything we have is organically grown, and it is not genetically modified. We're anti both of those things. We like natural, safe, organic especially when you're eating it, herbs and vegetables, but flowers, and it goes right down the line. So we're not going to dip our plants in nicotinoids, all these other things that the box stores do. We just are against that. They're doing that for shelf life, just so it stays on the shelf and they can get an extra week out of it. We'd rather just care for the plants and have a healthier plant. And so then we can keep it organic that way. So heirloom, you've got hybrid varieties, so cross-pollinated varieties. You've got some grafted varieties. You've got indeterminate. They grow big and lots of production. Generally, your big boys, beefsteaks, your big tomatoes, those are generally indeterminate because they need a lot of foliage to create that many and that large a fruit. Basically, tomatoes are a sugar-making factory. They just soak up the sun, create sugars, and put on fruit. That's what they like to do. But there's not space for a huge, 6 foot by 4 foot tomato in every garden. Sometimes you just want a patio tomato. Well, then you've got patio tomatoes too. And so that's kind of the different varieties of tomatoes and where you put each. There's not a right or wrong. There's just your favorite. My mouth's just watered thinking about fresh tomatoes. Oh, there's nothing better. Okay, we've got Lisa Watters Lain coming in with your garden, with her segment right after this, but let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. Ken here at Watters Garden Center, and we had a new flower come in. It's one of my favorites. We got it last year as a test, soft launch. This year we went all in because it performs well. It's a new sunflower. It's called Sunbelievable. The reason it's called Sunbelievable is supposed to put 1,000 flowers on, 1,000 sunflowers per year. I don't know if it does 1,000, but it does hundreds and hundreds. I can tell you that. So this is done. It automatically sets a new flower by itself. So a new one's coming up. So it's always got more flowers coming up. Unbelievable flowers. Those unbelievable flowers, sunflowers, here at Watters Garden Center, available for your gardens this year. And we are back with Lisa Watters Lain in the studio. She comes and just shares her garden tidbits. What is she doing? What does she see in her own gardens? Or while she's walking around, I had someone come in. I was helping her just before the show. She said, "Oh, Ken, have you ever been to the Dallas Botanical Garden?" I said, "Yeah, it's great. Have you been to the Phoenix one? Have you been to the Portland, British Columbia? Barcelona has a really great botanical garden. Denver, surprising. Montreal, surprising. We love botanical gardens. So in the winter, we like them. In the summer, we like them. In the spring, we like them." Seems like a Dr. Seuss rhyme or something. Go with that. I don't know. So anyway, how do we get off on that? It's all you.
All me. All right. So we were at that season. I think last week we talked about growing flower, redoing your flower containers. So this week I wanted to talk about doing vegetables and herbs in containers, because it is a really super easy way to grow your veggies and your herbs. If you don't want to be digging in your soil, if you don't want to do a big garden plot, so maybe you want we used to call it salsa garden. So some tomatoes and some peppers and things like that we just grew to make fresh salsa with. So growing things in containers are just so easy.
Yeah, truly, it's just fill really it up, plug them in, and that's that eat water. That's it.
Right. But there are a few things we should probably talk about.
Or we can't fill up the whole 2-minute segment.
We're done. Okay. So when you're picking a container, make sure you have a container that has good drainage holes, especially important for those veggies and herbs. Spend a lot of your herbs like rosemary and lavenders. They don't want to be soggy wet.
No. Oh boy.
So you better make sure you've got some good drainage holes in those pots, whether you're using plastic, wood, the big ceramics. Just make sure it drains well for them.
Yeah.
The other thing to think about is when you're potting those, put the pot where you want it to be before you start planting, because
at least before you water it,
because it will get heavy and you're not going to be wanting to traps that thing all across the yard to find the
get a
perfect
caddy. We make rolling saucers, kind of roll it where you want.
Good point. But yes. Also, the thing you want to look for is just adequate size. So I would say the absolute minimum in my mind would be something that's maybe 10 inches wide, 12 inches deep. And that's probably more for herbs.
Yeah.
If you're growing like a tomato in there, the other thing to think about is you're going to want to either use poles or a tomato cage. So it's got to be deep enough to put that in there to support it.
Mechanism. Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of those tomatoes, they get big and they get some weight to them once they get some tomatoes
they get wind
growing.
heavy is what happens. The wind will catch them and they flip all over. So a bigger sauce or bigger soil is basically a sponge. And so it's pretty lightweight when you fill it up and plant.
Right.
But then when you water, people are stunned at how much water it takes to hydrate that soil. That's because basically you're filling that container up with water and the soil is simply absorbing that and holding it there. So it takes a tremendous amount. The initial watering, it takes more than you think to hydrate all that stuff.
So it's very important to, once you get your potting soil in there, make sure it's moist. Not soggy wet, not gooey, but make sure it's moist so that when you put that new plant in there, it's not going to suck all the water away from the plant. So make sure the soil is moist and make sure your plant has been watered. You do not want to put a dry plant into the soil.
Yeah.
Just make sure they're both hydrated.
Yeah. Don't want dry plants, dry soils. That does not make for happy gardeners.
It does not. Also, I always recommend, especially for tomatoes and pepper, things that like that real even watering, the Aqua Boost crystals, I think, are amazing, but especially for tomatoes, because tomatoes don't like to be soggy wet. They don't like to be bone dry. They just like that real even, moderate watering.
I find with our peppers, they're less, if peppers get stressed, they get super hot. So if you want sweeter tasting, more flavorful, not just hot peppers, Aqua Boost crystals really do regulate that out. It's a game. Onions the same way. Onions get a bitter. If they get stressed, they aren't as sweet. Right. So I think everything benefits from that. Use it on everything. And you can only buy them at Watters Garden Center. We do actually make them here. So it looks kind of a cheesy looking product because we're actually bottling it. We're making it. We're put the lick and stick label on it. It's not something you can get professional. It's something that's locals that are using it locally for local plants. And it does actually work.
Definitely. So also your potting soil, make sure you use a good potting soil that actually will drain, because there's some potting soils that have like wetting agents in them. Yeah. And boy, that water just hangs around. Yeah. And plants don't like that. They get a lot of root rot.
That's also a chemical they add. That's why I have a hard time sourcing our recipe for our soil manufacturer. We have a recipe that we like. Make it like this and don't get creative. And we do not put wetting agents in it for that reason, because they're only chemical. There's always chemical dipped soils to make it wet down better. Well, I feel bad for organic gardeners. You know how hard it is to do organic gardening? I had the plant, but your soil, the fertilizers are chemically induced. Using city water, they add chlorine and fluorides and all kinds of crazy stuff. We can keep this organic. Sure. We really can.
Okay. Also, when you're filling pot, leave about 2 to 3 inches at the top of the pot, so that when you water it, that water has a chance to kind of pool there and drain through. Because if it's too full, it just goes whoop right out of the top of the pot and nothing gets down in there. So give yourself some room in there. If you're using multiple plants, so it's fine if you're going to put 2 different peppers in a pot, as long as you got the width and the size to it. It's fine to do that. We've done where was it peppers, and then we put zucchinis or cucumbers on the edge so they could spill over. So you can do that. Just make sure you're not overwhelming your pot. You do want to give these guys some space to grow.
It's mainly when they choke themselves out from light. It's a light thing, not so much root thing, though the soil is good. But when you've got like corn shadowing all your tomatoes because it's on the south side, and all of a sudden everything behind it can't get sun, they don't like that. So make sure they get enough sun. They're sharing the sunshine together because there's enough for everyone.
And some people like to, like tomatoes, they like to put some marigolds in there, kind of do some companion planting. So give yourself some room for that, and that's perfectly fine. The other thing I would mention is watering. So when you water these pots, we're at that weird point right now where maybe you don't need water every day, maybe you do, but we'll be there quickly.
Yeah.
So it's always best to hydrate your plants in the morning. It's best to give them enough water that they can get through the day. Some people go, well, I just water it twice a day. It's actually better for them to get complete hydration in the morning and let them go through the day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When you water in the evening, you're kind of inviting a lot of fungal issues, some diseases that want to come in because they like that moisture, that cool moisture.
Bugs are attracted to it. Everything's attracted to moisture,
right?
Especially at night. So you're better to have it go water in the morning. Yeah, I'd say in the dawn, earlier the better. First light.
And then it's okay to use a drip system
with
them. You just make sure your drip is running. Make sure it's in a spot where it's getting the entire pot wet. If you stick it at the edge, probably not as good as putting it as close to the middle as you can get it. And make sure it's running long enough to saturate that pot to get some good moisture in there. So you might have to go out and experiment a little bit with it because there's no hard fast rule, right? I can't tell you run your system for 10 minutes because I don't know how much water is coming out.
Water it until this water comes out the hole in the bottom. That means you've saturated the entire root zone. That's how much you know. And I really like the drip system. They make one that's on a stake, and then it's a 0 to 10 gallon per hour, but it makes a spray, kind of a mini spray that works really, really effective on containers. I know your list goes on, but we're out of time. Folks will have to come in and talk to Lisa to get more details on how to grow herbs and vegetables in your own containers. But Ken and Lisa Lain, the Mountain Gardeners, will be back after this.
There's nothing like tomatoes picked fresh from your garden.
Watters Mountain Tomato Collection are varieties proven to produce and thrive. Heirlooms, beefsteaks, cherries, naturally grown for local success.
Completely organic, never genetically altered, and utterly delicious. They're ready for your garden now.
You can grow your own this spring, and we can help. Watters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott.
Shop Watters in-store or online at wattersgardencenter.com.
Are back with the Mountain Gardener, your host Ken Lain, and the beauty of having the radio studio right here at the Garden Center is when someone as smart as Chris Shipley, Savano Nursery, shows up and he's training your team on the best Texas Ranger, best native flowering, whatever. Well, Chris, you've got to share that with everyone. There's no reason my staff should just have, we need you. You mind coming over and doing a radio segment? So Chris Shipley's a friend. He owns Savano Nursery down in Tucson. Welcome, Chris. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, Ken. Thanks for having me.
You enjoying the mountains?
Loving it. Yeah.
So we've got loads and loads and loads from his family. His farm comes up here, and so a lot of that native-y mixed stuff, that's from you. And you've created this new variety of wildflower, penstemon, or Texas sage, or whatever.
Yeah.
That is super interesting. Tell me about Savanos. How long have you been doing this? And why isn't it Shipley's Garden Center instead of Savano Garden Center?
We've been doing this for 25 years plus in Tucson. And we started with our garden center. We've owned a garden center since 1999. And it was master planned into a little community called Savano.
There we go. Gotcha. That's too easy.
Yeah. And that's where most of us live too. My brothers.
Even now.
Savano,
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where our garden center is. Yeah. On the southeast side of Tucson.
Now you're farming though,
Yep.
south of Tucson. So it's a colder area, whatever.
A little bit colder.
So how'd you find that? And how many acres is that? Give us some insight.
Sure. So we used to move trees out of the desert and resell them to homes. So they would be trees that were going to be
like mesquites or something,
mesquites and Palo Verdes
Gotcha.
that were in danger of being bulldozed over
Yes.
for new homes. And we would save them. When we were working on this one field nearby, and we looked over a half a mile away, we could see this other beautiful field that was for sale. And like, man, wouldn't it be nice, instead of having to move all around the county trying to move these big trees, if we just grew the trees in one spot?
Sure.
And sure enough, we made a deal to lease the land in the beginning from the owner. He was very excited that native trees and shrubs would be planted there and sold. And that's how we started. It was
Gotcha.
just that not wanting to drive 50,000 miles a year inside Pima County.
Now, your plants are sold from San Diego to Louisiana and everything in between, to Albuquerque to Prescott, Arizona,
Yeah.
everywhere. It's amazing what you've done with that. So
Thank
you've
you.
taken a little farm and grown it into a real player. So how many customers you got, or any kind of metrics on that, or
I think we have about 800 or 900 customers.
900. Wow.
We sell into six states at
Gotcha.
least.
Yeah.
In about 1,000-mile circle.
Yeah.
From Tucson. And we go it every week. Phoenix is our biggest market,
Sure, it
but
makes
Texas,
sense.
Prescott, Albuquerque, Little Lubbock, Amarillo. We're
Really?
Houston.
Yeah.
I mean, Dallas, where we're at. So
Yeah,
yeah,
good.
Austin, Texas.
And so the new plant, so you got how many family members work in the family business?
So it is my two brothers, Alex and Nick, myself. My father still works every day with us. He'll be
Nice.
85 this year.
I love Les. He's a mentor of mine.
Les,
he's a friend. He's awesome.
Dad, and my wife Melanie.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
So truly a family business. That's what I love about this industry. It is family.
Oh yeah.
Still family rooted. And so
Very much
families
so.
selling to families, and we're all trying to help each other get better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So what's new for this year? Any kind of new intros, new kind of plants? You're always developing new life forms, whether it's a shorter, prettier, chubbier, fuller bloomer, the color. What's new?
So this year we launched Laredo Texas Ranger.
Okay.
Microburst Texas Ranger. Little Lynn Texas Ranger. We have
That's three.
Oh yeah, Little Lynn.
Keep going.
Oh, then
impress me.
So that's the Rangers. We actually have another Ranger, which I won't say the name of. That'll be released this fall. That it's coming out, a dwarf green cloud Ranger. Yeah. And then we have we have our Orange Crush, Globe Mallow.
Yeah.
And also what's new is we'll have a new Pensman Perry out later this year.
Gotcha. All natives to drought. Native. We're going to try to not call them natives because people don't know what they are. We're going to try to call them super low maintenance.
Low maintenance.
Easy care. Put them out there, neglect them. They'll still grow. Plant.
We have a yellow dwarf yucca that Little Miss Sunshine.
Yeah.
And so, yes, they are native, but we've bred them and made them more accessible to today's smaller landscape environments. We made them hardier to the different changing weather patterns we're having, whether it's cold or heat or drought or even a big rain event. We've made them tougher. We've made them smaller. We made them hardier. And that's what we're up to. We want the urban landscape, want these native low maintenance plants to be accepted easily. People want them in their yards.
Yeah.
And
so now how do you do that? People, they don't know. How do you create this new science? Is this just like madman, like injecting nuclear chemicals into these plants and you see if they glow in the dark, or you just go, oh, there's a wild one out there. Where'd that come from? I'm going to go collect that, or seed, or cuttings? How do you do that?
It's four different ways. And the easiest way is to be in amongst, we'll just pick on Globe Mallow, to be in amongst a field of 1,000, 10,000 Globe Mallow in spring and look at them and see if one is different or five are different from the 10,000.
The genetics
that just stand out, that they have a better flower, a smaller size or whatever that you like about it, and then take a cutting from it and grow it out and see what happens and watch it for a number of years.
You find one in the wild.
Yep.
You go, whoa, that's obviously nicer.
Yep.
You cut it. You bring back the stems. You dip it in some magic juice, put it in some soil, and it starts to root out.
Yes.
And then you start to grow that out. And then you take more cuttings. You just expand that plant until you've got 10,000
patented and bring it to market. That's one way. Another way is to actually cross-pollinate. Take the pollen from one flower of a Texas Ranger and take another Texas Ranger that's different, take its pollen and cross-pollinate. That's another way. And that way you get the specific, actually,
That's by seed. So it'll generate a seed at
Yep.
that point, and then you grow the seed, then
and
you go,
see what
oh,
happens.
that's obviously
Yeah.
better or not.
Or not.
And you
Grow
decide,
those seeds out, and maybe you have 100 seeds, and you grow those 100 plants out, plant them in the ground, and see how they do. And then you could keep going and keep cross-pollinating. That's when you get the real freaky stuff. And that's the DNA and that's the glowing, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's how we got microburst and Laredo. We got Laredo is a microburst are radically different than the regular common Texas Rangers, and they do some really great stuff.
Yeah. Texas Rangers in the mountains of Arizona, they melt in the rain. They die in the monsoons. You get soggy and they just collapse.
Right.
Yours don't do that.
Right.
And they don't get as big. They're cuter. They're rounder. They're
fluffier.
They're better looking plants in the winter and they just bloom longer.
Yep.
It's impressive what you guys are developing. So you take cuttings, you either cross pollinate, you take pollen from one, little Q-tips over here, Q-tips over here. What's the third and fourth way?
Third one is to what is another way?
Didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm interested. I think listeners are interested.
So another way would be to find them in nature, cross pollinate, is to find them we find things after cold events.
Oh, gotcha.
So or extreme drought, or some not typical natural event where plants are stressed out and are harmed.
Yeah.
And then you find the ones, you see a whole stand
that are left alive.
Wow. And 4 are alive and thousands are dead.
Yeah.
You're like, those ones are stronger. Why? What's going on here?
Yeah.
And so we would take the cuttings from those and grow those out and see, and then test it. Okay, it went to 0, no problem, but everything else is dead. Go recreate, see if it'll live again. Oh yeah, it does. Wow. And so that's a big cold event or a big drought event. So you get those attributes. That's how we got Chili Willy, the Petalanthus, the slipper plant that we patented. It's radically cold hardier than the rest of the slipper plants.
Yeah. Well, Chris Shipley with Savano's Nursery. We are out of time, Chris. I apologize. This is super interesting. We will have to have you back, but thanks for making me a better garden center, getting us great, new, interesting, fun plants that people are not going to find anywhere else, because I have friends in the right places.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Chris Shipley, Savano Nursery. We'll be right back with more after this. Watters Garden companion plants in May are Purple Robe Locust, Viney Akevia, Prescott Sunshine Geraniums, and Easy Elegant Roses.
Just plant these roses in a sunny spot and enjoy.
We've married the beauty of long stem roses with the easy care of shrub roses for landscape color like no other plant in the backyard.
Choose fragrant reds, radiant pinks, corals, vivacious yellows, and stately whites.
Extremely fragrant and only found locally at Watters Garden Center in Prescott. So I had mentioned it is time to plant your vegetable garden, your herbs, your flowers, whether it's perennial or annuals. So perennials they come back year after year. Perennial and permanent both start with P. Or annuals, they live annually and then they're gone. They might reseed, but basically they're showstoppers for the season long. But by November, they're pretty much done. So they get frozen out. And so they're annuals. It is time to plant both. I thought I'd mention, how do you get the most out of your flowers? And there are some secrets. It comes down to food. For plants to produce that much growth and that many flower buds, and then to show off and be in color for that long, it takes a tremendous amount of energy to pull that off. If you're not fertilizing your plants regularly, they just kind of run out of steam. It looks like they're just anemic, or they're just not doing well. They were blooming so well early in the season, and then they stopped, and the flowers got smaller. There were less of them. There's a new flower we came in. We're going to start promoting this for Mother's Day. It's called Sunbelievable Sunflowers. It's a new variety of sunflower. It's a sterile variety, so it doesn't put seed. And because it self-prunes, it blooms like a sunflower, about the size of not way bigger than a silver dollar, but not as big as your hand. It's a pretty plant. It doesn't get head high. It gets up about knee high, about 3 by 3 by 3, or 2.5 feet by 2.5 feet by 2.5 feet, kind of like that, ball shaped. and just nonstop. It's saying Sunbelievable. It's supposed to put 1,000,000 flowers on. I don't know about 1,000,000, but definitely thousands of flowers on this year. It's an annual variety of sunflower. So for me, I grew it last year for the first time. It was a new introduction. This year, we got enough to actually have it as a Mother's Day. They're just so pretty, and they're nonstop right. It's like sunflower. I mean, just something about sunflowers and summer and sunshine and health and fresh air just goes together. It's just a really pretty plant. I noticed my butterflies love this Sunbelievable sunflower. Here's what I did. I planted mine in a container because I wanted it up where I could just enjoy it better. It's made to be, it's so pretty, you want to be around it all the time. So my back patio is where we like to hang out, especially during the season. So we planted it there in a container, not a big one. Maybe it was, I don't know, 12, 14 inches wide, about deep. Watered it, I don't know, every other day or so, and I kept it healthy. Here was the secret. So I like to deadhead flowers. That's my thing. It's therapy for me. I like to go and pinch off the spent flowers. I give it some love. I talk to it. I shape it, give it a little haircut so she looks pretty. She just feels better about herself. And then she just puts on a whole nother set of flowers. And so deadheading is kind of my thing. It makes me happy and it makes my plants even happier. So I like to deadhead my flowers. And the sunflowers especially respond to that. And then here's the insider tip. I fertilized my flowering plants, but especially that plant last year, really focused on the Sunbelievable sunflowers. I gave it some flower power. It's a water soluble. It's one scoop of fertilizer in a gallon of water. I have my little green watering can out there. It's a 2-gallon watering can. So 2 scoops, put some water in it, and I go and water my flowering plants. And that thing just bloomed. I could not believe I've never seen a sunflower put that many flowers on. It truly does live up to the hype, which is, kind of skeptical sometimes, but it really did. And so we went all in this year going, okay, that's Ken's favorite plant this year. We're going to have it for Mother's Day. It's going to be a promotion. We got several hundreds just sitting there. And so you'll see Facebook, Instagram. There's going to be a reel on it. It's going to be in the article. It's going to be everywhere. And so trying to promote it because it's just one of my favorite, just easy, sun-loving, takes the wind, attracts butterflies. It has everything you want. Typically, sunflowers don't attract a bunch of wild animals. So it should be relatively rabbit and javelina free too. Anyway, Sunbelievable. Using flower power makes it bloom all season long. That's it for Ken and Lisa. We are here throughout the week. We love talking to fans of the show. Ken here at Watters Garden Center, and we had a new flower come in. It's one of my favorites. We got it last year as a test, soft launch. This year we went all in because it performs well. It's a new sunflower. It's called Sunbelievable. And the reason it's called Sunbelievable is supposed to put 1,000 flowers on, 1,000 sunflowers per year. I don't know if it does 1,000, but it does hundreds and hundreds. I can tell you that. So this is done. It automatically sets a new flower by itself. So a new one's coming up. So it's always got more flowers coming up. Unbelievable flowers. Those Sunbelievable flowers, sunflowers, here at Watters Garden Center, available for your gardens this year. So this week, we had some moisture. Some folks think we don't. We're like Phoenix. We have some seasons where we just see no rain. I mean, we have moisture every single month of the year. There are wet cycles, so the monsoon seasons, August, September is definitely a spike in the amount of moisture. March, there's always a spike in how much moisture that we have. So the plants adapt to that. But every month we have some moisture. And so this is the week where your plants are going to go crazy. Those California poppies are just going to ignite with new growth. Oh my gosh, it's going to be spectacular. Mine are starting to bloom already, but now they're really going to go, and it'll get everything else to take off too. Your Virginia creeper will just go wild. It's a native vine that's growing out in the yard. So it loves this kind of moisture in early spring. And so it will just take off. The other thing that will take off, be careful, the weeds will go crazy right now. So this is where if you put down your fertilizers, it's really going to activate it to help your plants. If you put down weed and grass stopper, there's a granular kind of it looks like fertilizer, but it keeps the seed from germinating. This kind of event really gets it in the soil so the seed will not take off. If you didn't do that, you're going to have dandelions galore. You're going to have goat head. That's one with a little burr on it where you step with the dog, step on it and go, no, my feet hurt so bad. That's goat head. That one is going to take off. It loves this kind of the spring and moisture just starts to grow like crazy. That particular weed is an annual. It only comes back by seed. It never comes back by the root. So it's not a perennial. Perennial comes back from the same plant, from the same root, and then can spread and seed from there. But a true annual can come back, but never from the same root. It always comes back from the seed that was germinated or produced from last year's plant. And so that particular, most of the weeds we have here in the higher elevations, they're annuals. Tumbleweeds, it never comes back from the same root. It always comes back from these, it just tumbles across the valley and just spreads seed everywhere. But it comes back by seed. If you can put a weed and grass stopper, a barrier down there, it's going to eliminate them or greatly reduce the number of seeds that are coming back at you. So it just makes it easier. I mean, I've got irrigation clocks to run all my water, so I don't like watering. I mean, every once in a while, I like going out, it's, my coffee cup, and I go out and water something, my container gardens especially, but that's more of a therapy session for me. Not that my plants need water. I've got irrigation out there for them, but I just like to do it. And I commune with the hummingbirds and the butterflies. And then I don't like weeding, so I put weed and grass stopper down. In fact, when I get really stressed, I don't like weeding. When I get really stressed, I like deadheading flowers. I'm a flower grower. I just love color and fragrance and butterflies and hummingbirds and pollinators and all those things. It's a therapy session. When I have a really hard day at work, I've been dealing with insurance agents and attorneys and supply chain. Vendors are shorted me on my last truck. I'm just dealing with chaos, which is kind of business owners. When I really want to have fun, I go talk to gardeners because that's what I love to do. That's why I love owning a garden center. I get to talk gardening to gardeners. And then I really love taking my phone, putting it down and going out in the yard and I lose track of time when I'm in my gardens, when I'm out there just plugging a new flower in or just deadheading some flowers or smelling the lilacs in bloom this week. That's magical. That's therapy. It reinvigorates, kind of gets me excited. And so it's a good for me. I lose track of time. And so I think that's what gardening does for so many of us. So less therapy sessions and more garden sessions, and you probably have just as much fun or just as more health benefits. Well, that's it for this week's show. Throughout the week, Lisa and I camp out here at Watters Garden Center. We love talking to fans of the show. Watters Garden companion plants in May are Vining Akebia, Purple Robe Locust, Prescott Sunshine Geraniums, and Indian Hawthorn.
Wind is no problem for this Indian hawthorn.
Rose-colored flowers cover this spring bloomer that often repeat blooms in fall.
Dark blue berries adorn this compact bush that takes the wind and soaks up the sun like a native.
Perfect for low-maintenance gardens with virtually no pruning, ever.
Every backyard should have at least one, and only found here at Watters Garden Center in Prescott.
For a more fruitful garden, increase success in the landscape that just feels better, then tune in daily to the Mountain Gardener podcast. Subscribe through your favorite podcast streamer or visit wattersgardencenter.com. Better yet, visit me directly right here at Watters Garden Center. Thanks for tuning in.